Want to get cheat sheets, audiobooks, lessons, apps, and much more every month for free? Just click the link in the description to get your free language gifts of the month.
Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome back to our English class channel. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between by and until. So let's get started. Okay, so first we're going to talk about by. By marks a deadline for an action to finish. By marks the point where an action completes or is replaced by another action. So really think about using by to express a deadline. Something is going to stop, or you must finish an action at this point in time. So we can think about by as marking some point in the future. So by marks some point in the future where an action is going to finish, an action is going to be completed. So in an example sentence I have, I'll be at the office by 7 p.m. So in this sentence, the speaker is not at the office, but 7 p.m. is the deadline. This is the point in time at which the speaker will be at the office. The speaker is not at the office now, but by 7 p.m., by the 7 p.m. deadline, the speaker will be at the office. This will shows us, this is a future tense expression, and by shows us the deadline, the point at which that expression or the point at which that action is going to be completed. So this is how we use by, to think about it like a deadline, some point in time at which an action will be completed or finished. Okay, so let's continue on to the other grammar point for today, which is until. Until also has a more casual form. We can use till, T-I-L-L, or apostrophe T-I-L. You might see both spellings used for until, till, or till. In most cases, it's good to use until. In casual speaking and maybe in casual writing, you can use the casual form. But until is always polite and is always correct. Okay, so when we use until, let's talk about when to use until. We use until to talk about a continuing situation or a continuing state now in the present or in the future, but it's going to change or stop. So the key difference, one key difference here perhaps, is a continuing situation, a continuing state. With by, the nuance is a deadline. Something is going to finish at a deadline. Here, however, until gives us the nuance of something that's continuing. Something true now, for example, but that may not be true in the future. Until marks the point where that action or that state is going to finish or change. Okay, so we can think of it rather than as a deadline, as a key point in the future somewhere where action A continues until a point where we use until, and then a second action begins. Something is going to change at the until point. With by, however, we don't have the nuance of an action changing. We only have the nuance of a deadline. So here, until is used to show that something different is going to happen, or something will finish, but there's going to be a change after the until point. So for example, this sentence, very similar to the by example sentence, is I'll be at the office until 7 p.m. So here we have the future tense I will. I'll be at the office until 7 p.m. This sentence shows us the speaker is at the office right now. However, at 7 p.m., until shows us that 7 p.m. is the point at which the situation or the state is going to change. So at 7 p.m., the speaker is probably going to leave the office. Until shows us that right here, the action or the state is going to change. So please keep that in mind. Until shows you a change in something. by shows more of a deadline for an action that is continuing. So I hope that we can practice this in a few example sentences now. Okay, so let's try to choose the correct word to use in these example sentences. Should we use by or should we use until in these cases? So the first one I have is, he has to find a new job, blah, 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 March. So in this case, we see a point in time. We can think about it. Should we use by or until here? If we use by, we see that the deadline nuance matches here. He has to find a new job by March. If we use until, he has to find a new job until March. There's no information in this sentence that shows us a hint or that gives us a hint about how the action is going to change. Until does not make sense for this question, so we should use by in this case. He has to find a new job by March is the correct answer for this sentence. In the second sentence, I'm not going to go to bed, blah, blah, blah. I finish this movie. So in this sentence, we have at the end, I finish this movie. So there's some action maybe that's continuing here. And we have another action. I'm not going to go to bed. In this case, it's a negative. So there are two actions here. This is a pretty good hint that there's an action that's going to change at some point, instead of the nuance of a deadline. So for this sentence, until is the best answer. I'm not going to go to bed until I finish this movie. This shows us that at this point, the point where I finish the movie, I'm going to go to bed. This marks the change in the continuing state or the continuing situation. So the next sentence is they need to write their reports, blah, 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 tomorrow. So this sentence, there's no change in the sentence. We don't have any hints about some kind of different action that's going to happen. Instead, we have maybe what seems to be a deadline, some requirement here too. So if we try to use until, it doesn't make sense. There's no changing action. We can't guess about what might happen in the future or a change that might happen. So by is the best answer here. They need to write their reports by tomorrow. Tomorrow is the deadline. So we can guess that tomorrow is the deadline here. By shows us that it's the deadline in this case for this task. All right. Let's take a look at something a little bit different. Here we have, we can't leave the house, blah, 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 your mother calls. So again, there are two situations, there are two actions involved in this sentence. We have leave the house and your mother calls, makes a phone call. So because there are two actions here, we can guess that there's some change that's going to happen. So because we learned that until marks a change in actions, we know that until is the better answer here. Okay, we can't leave the house until your mother calls would be the correct sentence here. All right, so let's look at the next sentence though. This one is a tricky sentence. This one is a little bit difficult. We have, I'm not going to be there, something, something, 8 p.m. So here, we have 8 p.m. at the end of a sentence, which looks like a deadline, right? We have going to be there. So should we use by or until for this sentence? It's difficult because actually both are okay for this sentence. I'm not going to be there by 8 p.m. is correct, and I'm not going to be there until 8 p.m. is also correct. However, the meanings are very different. Just as we practiced in these two sentences, I'll be at the office until, I'll be at the office by 7 p.m., the same is true here. I'm not going to be there by 8 p.m. means I'm not going to be there at 8 p.m. It's not possible for me. I can't go. However, I'm not going to be there until 8 p.m. This sentence means after 8 p.m. or beginning at 8 p.m. and after I'm going to be there. So please be careful. In some cases, both by and until are correct, but they change the meaning of the sentence. Okay, let's continue to another example. So the next example sentence is also a little bit difficult. It's if my date doesn't arrive, something, 7 p.m., I'm leaving. Okay, so here we do have two actions. Doesn't arrive, my date doesn't arrive, a negative point, and I'm leaving. So it seems like there are two actions here. However, we have this 7 p.m. This marks a deadline, right? So if my date doesn't arrive, there's some deadline here. If this is not completed, something is going to happen. The person is going to leave. So in this case, 7 p.m. is showing a deadline. So we have to use by. If my date doesn't arrive until 7 p.m., we could use that, but it doesn't sound so natural. So the nuance again here is of a deadline. There's something that is going to happen at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. marks the end point in this situation. So we use by here. Okay, let's go to the next pair. Again, these are very interesting points. We have to leave the beach, blah, 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 10 a.m. And we have to stay at the beach, blah, 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 10 a.m. Okay, so these two sentences I included because I wanted to show the emphasis of changing actions and continuing actions. So we can see the verbs are different here. In the first sentence, we have leave. So this is a change, leaving a location. In the second sentence, I have stay, which shows a continuing action, stay in one place. So here, as you can guess then, we have to leave the beach, blah, 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 10 a.m. Some change, some deadline. So we'll use by to show our deadline. In the second sentence, we have to stay at the beach. Stay shows a continuing action, and then it's going to finish here. So we'll use until. We have to stay at the beach until 10 a.m. This shows us a continuing action, and maybe at 10 a.m. we'll leave the beach. All right. Let's go on to the next sentence. I'm not going to travel abroad, blah, blah, blah. I learn English. Okay, so here there's no time point. There's no 10 a.m., 8 p.m., tomorrow, and so on. So this is a little more complex, maybe. We have travel abroad and learn English. So it seems there's no real deadline here, but we have maybe a change. Maybe this shows us some kind of change. Learning English marks a change. So I'm not going to travel abroad until I learn English. This shows us that something different is going to happen in the future, so we should use until to mark that change. Okay, our last example sentence for today is we told him to wake up, blah, 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 6 a.m. So once more, our last sentence may be a little bit simple, but 6 a.m. shows us an action, sort of this deadline. You can see a lot of these use a time to mark a deadline for an action. So here, we told him to wake up by 6 a.m. This is the point at which something must happen. So we should use by here. Okay, great. So those are a few example sentences that you can have a look at and think about when you're trying to decide whether to use by or until. Keep in mind, however, there are some cases where both by or until are correct, but the meaning is going to change significantly depending on the one you use.
Want to get cheat sheets, audiobooks, lessons, apps, and much more every month for free? Just click the link in the description to get your free language gifts of the month.
Today I'm going to talk about the difference between really and very. these are sometimes confused, or it's difficult to know when you should use really or when you should use very. So today I'm going to give a quick explanation that hopefully can help you decide when to use really and when to use very. So let's start. Okay. First, there's one thing that's common, one thing that both of these do. Really and very are both used to add intensity or to add emphasis to what you're saying. So both of them have the same effect. Okay, but let's start with really. Really is used to modify, so to add emphasis to change verbs. We also use really to modify adjectives and adverbs. So a few examples here. This sentence, you're really funny. So funny is an adjective. We use really before the adjective to modify. So this gives emphasis to the word funny. Then we have this word fast. This is an adverb in this sentence. He runs really fast. We add really to show he runs really fast. It emphasizes the speed at which he runs. Finally, I have the adjective tired. I'm really tired. So we emphasize tired by placing really before the adjective. So we can use really to modify verbs, and we can use it to modify adjectives. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about the verbs part a little bit later. Okay. Let's go on to very, though. So very is used to modify adjectives and adverbs only. We cannot use very to modify verbs, so please be careful. You cannot use this with a verb. We'll see this in just a moment. For me, however, a recommendation, I tend to use very more in negative sentences. I don't use really so much when I'm making a negative statement. So let's look at a few examples. First, this sandwich is very good. So good is my adjective here, so I use very to modify it. Yes, I can use really here as well. This sandwich is really good is also a correct sentence. The next one, you're not very funny. So here's a negative that I was talking about. Funny is the adjective in this sentence, and saying not very is a negative statement. You can say you're not really funny, but to me it sounds a bit more natural to say you're not very funny. Here's one more example. He doesn't run very fast. So again, I have the adverb fast here with very and my negative. So he doesn't run very fast emphasizes that he is not a fast runner. Okay. And finally, they're very rich. This one uses an adjective, rich. They're very rich. We can say they're really rich. Both are correct. So let's take a look at some example sentences. And in particular, I want to point out a few cases where we can use really with verbs, as I talked about here. So let's take a look. Let's look at the first sentence. The sentence here is they something something like vacationing in France. So here I have the verb like. We know that really is only used to modify verbs. We cannot use very to modify verbs. Therefore, the correct answer here is really. They really like vacationing in France. Okay. The next sentence, my schedule is something something busy. We see that busy is an adjective. My schedule is something something busy. So really and very are both correct. I'm really busy. My schedule is really busy, or my schedule is very busy. Both of these are correct. In the next sentence, that restaurant wasn't something something good. So I mentioned that this one, very, is something I tend to use more in negative patterns. So here we have a negative. We have the negative wasn't in this sentence, so that restaurant wasn't very good. Sounds nice, okay? The next sentence, it's something something rainy today. So rainy, we have an adjective here. It's rainy. That means we can use really or very. Also, it's a positive statement here. Okay. The next expression, your boss seemed something something angry with you. Again, here's an adjective. And the sentence, the statement is a positive statement. So again, we can use either really or very. Okay. Let's go to the next one. She something something eats a lot. Here we have the verb eats. She something something eats. Because it's a verb, we know we can only use really in this situation. So, she really eats a lot is the correct sentence here. Okay, similar, we have he something something hates cats. So, hates is our verb here. Again, the same rule applies. We can only use really with verbs, so really is the correct answer. He really hates cats. Okay, one more. I something something hope we can I something something hope we can catch up soon. So once more, our verb is hope. I hope. We're emphasizing. I really hope. So these three all have the same pattern. They're all modifying a verb here. Okay, final one. This is something something easy. So easy is an adjective. We can use really or very in this case. This is really easy or this is very easy. Both are correct in this case. All right. So that's a quick overview of when to use really and when to use very. Please remember you can only use really in front of a verb, and if you're making a negative statement, try to use very instead of really. It'll sound a little bit more natural. Today I'm going to give a short explanation of the difference between look, watch, and see. So let's get started. Okay, the first verb that I want to talk about is look. We use look when we simply want to explain that we are moving our eyes to something. Just moving the eyes is to look at something. There's no expectation that the item or the object we are looking at is going to change. There's no expectation that some change is going to happen. We're simply moving our eyes to something. Finally, when you use look and an object follows the verb, you need to follow look with at. So for example, look at that, look at me, look at that, look at her, look at him. All of these use at because an object follows the verb look. So look at that thing. When you use an expression like look over there, there's no object there. So only when there's an object after the word look, you need to use at to connect the two. Okay, so remember, look is used when you're simply moving your eyes to something. Okay, let's talk then about the verb watch. So we use watch when we want to focus our attention on something. So focusing your attention can be on something happening in front of you, like a performance. It can be movie, TV. But the nuance with watch is you are watching something that is changing or moving. Something is going to happen. There's an expectation of change or movement, evolution in some way. We use watch in those cases. Focused attention on something that is changing or something that is moving is when we use watch. Then finally, see. The verb see is used when we just notice something. We happen to notice something. Maybe a person has come into the room and we see that person. We notice something. But we're not necessarily focusing. So maybe we see it, our eyes catch it, but we don't focus on that thing. That is when we use see. So to recap, we use look just to move our eyes to something. We use watch for focused attention on something that is moving or something that is changing. And we use see when we just notice something, but we don't necessarily focus on it. Okay, so this is the basic use of these three verbs, but there are a couple of exceptions. So here I have special cases, especially for performances. So for example, movies, TV shows, concerts, sporting events, and so on. These have slightly different rules. We will only use watch or see for these cases. Please do not use look in these cases. Please use watch or see. If you're having trouble deciding when to use watch or see, a good rule or a good guideline is if it's something outside the house, something outside your home, your apartment, use the verb see. If you're at home doing something, at home, like watching a movie, for example, use the verb watch. So for example, over here, you would see a movie in a movie theater, see a baseball game, watch a DVD at home. or watch the awards show at home. So these are at-home actions, and these are outside the home actions. So we use see and watch in these cases. Okay, but let's try to choose the correct verb in these example sentences that I've prepared. So first one, tonight I'm going to something something Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is a popular TV show, so we should use watch because we learned that watch is used for things outside, because we learned that watch is used for actions at home, things we do at home. It's more natural to use watch. I'm going to watch Game of Thrones. Okay, the next sentence. I want to something something that new movie. New movie probably means going to a movie theater, so we should use the verb see. I want to see that new movie is the correct verb here. Something something up ahead. Traffic is terrible. So up ahead means in front of you, in front of the car. In this case, it's car, it's traffic related. So up ahead, in this case, the speaker is asking the listener to move his or her eyes in front of them, to go up ahead with their eyes. So you can use the verb look. Look up ahead. Traffic is terrible. So move your eyes up ahead is the command. Okay, next one. Last night I stayed in and something something a football game. So stayed in means stayed home. I stayed at home. We use the expression stayed in. So I stayed in and watched. This is an at-home action, past tense. I watched a football game last night. Okay. Next one, I can't wait to something something my favorite band next week. So again, this is a performance outside the house, my favorite band. So we'll use see. I can't wait to see my favorite band next week. Okay, next sentence. When I something something into the forest, I something something a deer. Okay, there are two verbs in this sentence. We're going to use looked. So when I moved my eyes into the forest, I moved my direction, my eyes moved in the direction of the forest, and I something something a deer. So we noticed something. I saw a deer. I saw a deer. A deer entered my eyes is a weird way to say it, but that's the nuance here. I happened to notice. I wasn't focusing, but I saw this in my eye. I saw a deer. Okay. Let's look at a really difficult one. I something something up from my book and something something you. You were something something a video on your phone. Okay, so similar here. I something something up. I looked up. I moved my eyes up from my book. So I was reading. I moved my eyes up from my book and something something you. So here I noticed. I saw, past tense. I saw you. Then here, you were something something a video on your phone, a video on your phone. So maybe we need to use the verb watch because the person has focused their attention on their phone, on the video. You were watching, past progressive tense. You were watching a video on your phone. So here, in this situation, we have all three verbs. Finally, let's use it in a question. When did you last something something your roommate? So when did you last notice your roommate? We would use the verb see. When did you last see your roommate? When was the last time you saw your roommate? You noticed your roommate. So these are some great examples of sentences where it might be difficult to guess. Should I use look? Should I use see? Should I use watch? But keep these rules in mind. So remember, when you move your eyes to something, use look. Don't forget to use at when an object follows the verb too. When you want to focus your attention or talk about something that's changing and moving, use watch, like movies and TV shows. When you want to just talk about noticing something but not focusing your attention, use see. So this is a basic introduction to the differences between look, see, and watch. I hope it was useful for you. If you like, you can try to leave a comment with one of these verbs in your sentence. Or if you have any questions, please let us know as well.
Want to get cheat sheets, audiobooks, lessons, apps, and much more every month for free? Just click the link in the description to get your free language gifts of the month.
Today I'm going to talk about say, tell, and speak. I'm going to talk about the differences between when we use these and also give some examples of how to use them as well. So let's go. Okay, the first one I want to talk about is say. Say. So we use say when we want to have a very neutral feel to what we're talking about. We use say when we report speech. We're reporting information, reporting something we heard, reporting something someone else said to us. So, as I just used, the past tense of say is said. Please be careful. It is not say-ed, say-ed. It should be said. The spelling changes. Said. He said, she said, we said, they said. Okay, so when we want to report speech, we can use the past tense like I've just done. For example, he said dinner was delicious. This is a past tense statement, so maybe previously, before the conversation, someone, he, said this statement, dinner was delicious. Think of this like a quote. Dinner was delicious. He said dinner was delicious. Another example, you said you were tired. You said you were tired. So again, before the conversation, the other person said he or she was tired. But here, to report, you said you were tired. And we use the past tense say, said, to do that. Okay, one more with the present tense then. Remember, we use the present tense when we're talking about general facts or things which are always true, regular actions. So in this case, I've used present tense. I said, I never say mean things. So here I have present tense. This is a general fact in this case. I never say mean things. So again, a very neutral way of talking about verbal communication. Okay, so that's how we use say, an introduction to how we use say. Then let's talk about how to use tell. We use tell a little bit differently from the way that we use say. So we use tell when we want to show kind of a one-way nuance. There's sort of one-way communication happening. So by that I mean that someone is passing new information or giving new information to another person. Something I do not already know, I'm having someone tell me. Someone is going to tell me new information. So we use this in past tense a lot. The past tense of tell is told. He told me, she told me, they told me. This gives us the nuance of new information, something I'm learning, something I'm hearing for the first time. I can use tell or told in past tense. Also, one point about tell. The object, in many cases, is a person. So by that I mean after the verb tell, the item coming after it in the sentence is usually a person. So the person receiving the information. So please tell me, please tell her, please tell him. The person indicated here, or the group of people indicated here after the verb tell, that's the person or the group of people receiving the information, learning the information. Okay? So let's see. I told you to call me. Here I have the past tense. I told you to call me. So you, this is the receiver of the information. I told you to call me. I asked you to call me here. Okay, so this is the report, some command. We can use tell and told to give commands. I told you to call me. I gave you the new request to call me, in other words. Okay, one more, a request this time. Can you tell me where the bathroom is? So here, tell me. So this is a request for information. Can you tell me where the bathroom is? I don't know where the bathroom is. Please give me new information. Please tell me where it is. Okay, here we also use present tense, yeah? So when you're making requests, please make sure to use the present tense. Can you tell me something? One more. Why didn't you tell me the party was canceled? Another question. Why didn't you tell me? So you didn't give me new information about the party. Why? Why didn't you tell me? Blah, blah, blah. We can use this pattern for if you miss information, or if someone forgot to tell you something, if someone forgot to give you information that you needed, you can say, why didn't you tell me? Blah, blah, blah. To make a different sentence, you could say, why didn't you tell her? Or why didn't you tell them? Why didn't you tell our boss? Some other examples, a positive sentence could be, why did you tell him? Why did you tell her? For example, if someone tells a secret. So we can use tell to give new information, to pass new information along. Okay, so that's tell. So the next verb that I want to talk about today is the verb speak. So we use speak to mean a conversation, yes. So speak has the nuance of a conversation, but it has the nuance of a more formal tone. We would use speak in more formal situations, like a business meeting or a work setting, for example, or for maybe a more serious conversation. But we can use speak with either with or to. So I mean speak with someone and speak to someone. So the difference between these two is very, very small. If you say speak with my boss, it sounds like you expect a conversation with your boss. Speaking with someone sounds like there's information passing back and forth between the two of you. Speak to your boss sounds more like, for example, you're going to say a lot of things, you're going to give a lot of information, and your boss will participate a little bit, but there's more nuance of giving information than passing information back and forth. So if you want to make a more conversational nuance, use with. Speak with someone. If you want it to sound a little more one-sided, a little more one way, use speak to someone. Okay. So we also use speak for languages, like I speak English, I speak French, I speak Japanese, I don't speak German, I don't speak Thai. So please use speak for languages as well. The past tense of speak is spoke. Please be careful. It is not speaked. Please use spoke. The past tense is spoke. I spoke English every day when I lived in America, for example. So please use spoke as the past tense here. Also, the past participle form is spoken. Spoken. So we'll see that in a little bit, maybe. Okay. So some example sentences. You should speak with or to your boss. So here you can choose. With sounds more conversational. To sounds a little more direct. You should speak with your boss. You should speak to your boss. Okay. Past tense sentence. I spoke with my manager. I spoke with my manager. We shared information. Last, have you spoken to HR? Have you spoken to HR? Here's a present perfect tense sentence. I've used spoken here. Okay. Good. So that's a nice maybe wrap up of a few different verbs that are commonly confused when talking about speech. Let's go to some example sentences. All right. The first example sentence is my friend something something me. My cooking was bad. Okay. My cooking was bad. This is probably new information for a person. Another hint, we have me. There's a person here in the object position of the sentence. So we can guess that this should be the verb tell. However, we have this hint. My cooking was bad, a past tense. So we should use the past tense form of tell, told here. Okay, next one. They something something, I have to work tomorrow. So here, I have to work tomorrow. This is maybe just information. It sounds like somebody passed some information to me. So if I want to think of this as like reporting speech, I would use the verb say in the past tense, said. So I know this should not be tell because there's no object here. I know it should not be speak because there's no with and there's no to here either. So I know this should be, they said I have to work tomorrow. Of course, this sentence could be, they told me I have to work tomorrow. It sounds more like a command in that case. Here, they said I have to work tomorrow is very neutral and just a simple report of speech. Okay, next one. He really needs to something something with his client. So here is a big hint word. We have the word with here, and we also have client here, which shows maybe a business or a work setting. Therefore, we can guess the verb should be speak. He really needs to speak with his client. Okay, great. Next one, have you something something, your mother, the news. So here, news is a big hint, new information. And we have a person in the object position. A person is going to receive new information. So, have you told your mother the news is the correct sentence here. So have you told blah, blah, blah is actually a really good sentence for you to remember. Have you told your mom about that? Have you told your dad about that? Have you told your dog about your new park? I don't know. So anytime you want to pass information or ask a question about information being passed, please use tell to do that, like we've done here. Have you told someone? Okay, let's go to the next one. We something about this at the last meeting. So again, meeting here is a big hint that it is a work or a more formal situation. We see that this is the last meeting, so something that has finished already. So let's use past tense, spoke. We spoke about this at the last meeting. We spoke about this at the last meeting. Here, I have introduced something slightly different from this speak with or speak to. If you want to mention a topic rather than about a person, we can use speak about a topic, speak about something. We spoke about this at the last meeting. We can use speak to introduce a topic as well. So please note that this is an option. Okay, let's go to the next one. You always, blah, 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 nice things, nice things. So always here I have a word which indicates a regular action, something that is always true. We talked about an example over here, though I used never here. However, the grammar is still the same. We should still use the same grammar nuance, the same grammar point here. So let's use the present tense, say. You always say nice things. So someone always says positive things, or someone always makes very positive comments. Like for example, everybody in the comments on these videos, everybody always says very nice things. We can use always say to talk about something that a person always says. Okay, finally, same thing, he always something, the truth. Okay, now this is tricky. I've used always here. I used always in the previous one as well. But the thing I want to point out is this, the truth, at the end of the sentence. There's a set phrase in English. We don't use say. We actually use tell with the expression the truth. He always tells the truth. So the expressions tell the truth and the opposite, tell a lie. We always use the verb tell with this. You might hear, I sometimes hear non-native speakers of English say a lie or say the truth, but this is not natural. Please be sure to use tell the truth or tell a lie. We always use tell in these cases, so please be careful of that. Okay, but we've talked about a lot of different ways to use these three verbs, and I hope that it's a little bit more clear now when to use them, especially say and tell. Many people have a little bit of confusion between these two, but speak is also quite useful as well. Okay, so I hope that was useful for you. If you have any questions, please be sure to leave them in the comment section below this video. If you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. It's super helpful for us. Also, subscribe to our channel if you have not already. Check us out at EnglishClass101.com for more good stuff too. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I will see you again soon. Bye!